Um, I'm Mark Sherman. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial. This is just such a... Do you mind if I sit down? There are so many questions that I'd like to ask you. I hardly even know where to begin. Have people from your world been here before?
Before, yes. We are interested in your species.
You mean some kind of an anthropologist? Is that what you're doing here? Just checking us out?
You are a strange species. Not like any other. And you would be surprised how many there are. Intelligent but savage. Shall I tell you what I find beautiful about you? You are at your very best when things are worst.
Let him go, Mr. Sherman, please. If he stays here, he'll die. Can't you see he's dying now?
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for battle.
Well, Danny boy, and place to place the alcohol and from glen to glen, went down the mountainside. That summer's gone, when all the roses are falling. Dead you must go, this you must go, but I must buy.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Danny B Movies, where my guests and I introduce or reintroduce the world at large to a cult film. And again, it is Alien Month, Part 2. Last week we had District 9 with Mike and Megan, and we're back with two stars of the podcasting world, and I forced them to watch a film where Jeff Bridges fondles his own balls quite a lot. So we are here to talk John Carpenter's Starman. Is it hazy cosmic jive, or did this Starman blow our mind? We're going to ask Paul, the super dummy, and he's not talking about the Holocaust this time.
Yeah.
How are you, Paul?
I'm doing well.
Celebratory, not talking about the Holocaust. Fantastic.
There hasn't been mass murder. There's just been fondling of balls.
Ball fondlers. That's all we're here to talk about. Lots of other weird things happen in this film, but it's not as dank, deep, and dark and depressing. I picked a nice one for you, Paul, because I knew I owed you a good one. A nice,
You're
light,
just too kind.
airy one.
This is how you treat me.
I didn't want to depress anybody this time, but he's not alone. Again, I've reunited both of them together. Angry Andy is here to talk about John Carpenter, and again, we will talk John Carpenter. That has been delayed a little bit, the Memoirs of an Invisible Man, but right now we're talking Starman, the Michael Douglas produced, John Carpenter directed, Karen Allen, Jeff Bridges starring Starman. Boys, where do we start with Starman?
He has a lot of balls.
He does love his balls.
He really does love his balls.
Why don't Paul, you've not been on here for a while.
Thank you very much
That's
for listening.
Hope you enjoyed our balls. And the talk of
film.
balls. Spider balls. Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Paul, why don't you give us a brief synopsis of Starman? Andy's here all the time. You're not here as often, so I want to hear your lovely, lovely voice.
Well, Alien comes to Earth. Alien takes form of Dead Man. Alien then spends time with Dead Man's wife. A lot of time. Gets fruity. He goes home. Synopsis.
Spoilers. You've ruined it for Tonya now. You've ruined it. The whole
Sorry.
thing you've ruined.
I've ruined it.
But yes,
The film's been out since 1984.
I don't make the rules,
Notice
Andy. I don't make
as
the spoiler
spoiler.
rules. I just try and follow them out of respect. That's all. That's all. But
I ain't
yes,
here for
you
no
are
rules.
correct. We're rule breakers. We don't care. We're fondling metallic balls. It's what we do here. But this is quite an unusual and film for John Carpenter, and it's one that people often forget. Paul, I know Andy's a big fan of John Carpenter because we talk about him quite a lot, and I know I am because I talk about him quite a lot. But what about you, Paul?
Well, first of all, as always, you're relying on my memory here. Yeah, from the ones I've seen, don't think there's been a John Carpenter film that I disliked. I don't believe. It's possibly a wide sweeping statement as he goes through his memory, trying to remember all the different films.
Ghosts of Mars.
The Ward, Escape from LA are the ones that come to mind.
Oh, go on. Escape from LA is... All right, I might give you that one.
Ghosts of Mars.
I've not seen that one, so...
Have you not? Oh,
No, I've
it's
not.
dreadful. Hilariously so. Give it a watch. It's terrific shithousery.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to it then.
It's on the watch list for Paul.
I couldn't tell you what it's about because every time I've watched it, I've gone, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it.
Well,
Why
I
am
know
I
what
here?
I'm doing after this.
You're intriguing him. The more you talk about it, the more he wants to watch it. But before Andy rudely interrupted you, Paul, please carry on.
Yeah, no, yes. From what I remember, I'm a fan of, there's a few here and there that maybe don't quite reach the peaks. There are some that Andy would like to throw in a dustbin fire. But otherwise, I have high regards. And I was surprised to find out this was one of his. Doesn't necessarily, I don't know, go with the lineage that you might expect.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of his work's quite political. There's usually like an allegory underneath, quite entertaining, usually full of suspense and tension. Yeah. So it's very, and even for him, he says, this is totally, something different for me that I got to try out and do and experiment with. What about you, Andy? Speaking of John Carpenter.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched. I don't want to say every single film that he's made, but I think I've watched the vast majority of the ones that are out there in pop culture universe. I do have a very big soft spot for vampires. God, that film is dreadful, but I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. It's dreadful. It's awful. It's an awful film, but I really love it. I just absolutely love it. And then obviously I'm a huge fan of The Thing. So it's interesting to me that this film sort of followed that. And like you were saying, Dan, the whole idea, he was sort of approached. I think he was approached by Michael Douglas to do it. And he sort of went, well, I kind of have to because The Thing's absolutely fucking bombed. And I need to be able to show that I can make a film like this just in case. So,
yeah, I think it was a 2-picture deal that he did with Columbia. I think he did Christine, so the Stephen King killer car film, and then he did this as well as a follow-up. But this went through several directors like Peter Hyams, our friend from End of Days, Peter Hyams, and who was celebrating at the Forbidden Worlds Film Festivals that I covered. Go back and listen to those links in the show notes. And John Badham, who left this to go on to do War Games, because there was a lot of problems with it because Columbia had the option for 2 different scripts. One was called Night Skies, and the other one was Starman. And they both felt they were a bit too similar, so they passed on Night Skies and they kept Starman. Night Skies turned into E.T.
Oops.
Yeah, so maybe might have bet on the wrong horse there. But that again went through a lot of transformations as well because it was like a horror movie initially, and that's a whole nother.
I love it when studios do that. I love it when studios pass on a massive IP. I'm going to Disneyland very soon. And by the time this comes out, it'll have long gone to Disney, not gone from this universe. It was interesting. I've been
getting your own spaceship as well.
Yeah, I've been watching loads of like videos on with theme parks in general. I've been getting really back into sort of the hype and everything. And I did not know J.K. Rowling approached Disney and said, "Build a theme park for me. You can have Harry Potter in your theme parks, in your Disneyland, in Florida, in Paris, in California." And Bob Iger went, No, I don't see a place for it. What are Universal doing? Reeling that money in. Absolutely
Yeah.
reeling that money in. I love it when you have these stories of them, like studios passing up on films or IPs, and then next thing you know, they're like 30 years later and they're still being talked about. It's incredible. Obviously, Star Wars is one of the most obvious ones, isn't it? But I love it. I love those stories because you used to imagine them sat there going, "I made a huge fucking mistake." All the investors are sat there going, "If only you built fucking Harry Potter land right next to the fucking castle, Bob. Look at God fucking damn you! We could have a Harry Potter and Mickey Mouse fighting it out. God fucking damn you!"
That's the crossover I want to see. That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Mickey's got his little hat. He's got his little wizard hat, and all the brooms are coming with the pails of water, and Harry Potter is there trying to stop them all. Now that is a fight I want to see.
Yeah. I'm here for that.
It's just
I don't know what you mean. Starman is definitely equal to ET. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, not similar in any way.
They're equal levels. They've made the same amount of money, I'm sure.
Do you think this is more Flight of the Navigator than ET? Do you think?
Oh God, yeah. Actually, that's a good one.
That's a more accurate sort of look at it, isn't it? Really, maybe?
Shiny spaceships. Yeah. Kind of very comical character because I think it was Pee Wee Herman was the character in Flight of the Navigator. He's like, that robot. You won't see. This is all audio, so you won't see me imitating the robot.
Oh, you're missing out.
Flight of the Navigator. This is.
Being consumed by the thing, then.
Yeah, that's my film. Those are the kind of films I'd make.
Yeah.
Before we came on, like I was speaking to Paul, and before Andy came in, and me and Paul were discussing that this is considered a romantic comedy, air quotes. Would you describe it, Andy, as a romantic comedy, or what you would perceive as maybe a traditional romantic comedy?
No, not at all. I mean, there's a few flecks of comedy in there, but it's not outright comedy. It's the situational comedy, isn't it? Like reaction based comedy, like when he starts learning bits and pieces from people. When that guy sticks his finger up at him in the bathroom, and then later on down the film, like driving away, and he sticks his finger up. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. He's learning. It's Terminator kind of stuff, isn't it? He's learning.
It reminded me of the Mr. Bean movie where the guy flips him off, and he thinks it's a greeting, and he's just like driving down the road,
sat in that car, just flipping the bird to everyone he's passing. Hilarious. Terrible film.
I mean, he is. I mean, it is kind of that comedy kind of character, isn't it? And I know.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Bridges. I think this said that he got the part by saying the alien needs to, be doing a bad impression of what human is, and like messing it up and being awkward and weird, and not quite really understanding the way humans interact and work, and how society works, and what the language means and everything. And I think that's an interesting way to play it, because the alienness is the culture. It's not the way he looks or the way he is or the way it's not like he's the alien. It's the world is alien to him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In a respect, because he's trying to understand the way it all works, and there's something quite interesting about this, that even though the subject matter is quite, cosmic and, sci-fi, it's a very down-to-earth film, no pun intended, but it's very like homegrown Americana. It's very like all the people are very like salt of the earth, quite, people, they're hunters or truckers or cooks or, all the people working with the government. It's the two kind of worlds kind of colliding as well, and this alien world as well. So yeah, it's quite fascinating. And I'll talk about the performance. We'll talk about Jeff Bridges' performance because it was nominated for an Oscar. He did lose to F. Murray Abraham for Amadeus, which I think is fair because it's Amadeus at the end of the day. To be honest, But yeah, what did you think to the performance, Paul?
Yeah, I think it is interesting. The comedy of it is very much part of the character. It's not a funny script, I imagine.
No.
Like, I don't imagine they were sitting in the reading room, like bursting out laughing and cracking jokes at each other because how wonderful this is. It's very much the way he plays it that brings in some of the comedy. And it does seem like he understood the character. If he wasn't playing this, then it probably wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as it is. He understood those things, okay, he's taken a DNA, so he looks like a human, but it doesn't mean that he is human. He doesn't have the understanding, like you say. He doesn't have that cultural. And yeah, even the sci-fi part of it, that kind of runs underneath. It doesn't really... you could almost have it so it's not a sci-fi film. It's, maybe it's someone from one of these Amish communities who doesn't take part in American culture, and then they've taken part. You could almost play it like that. It doesn't have to be sci-fi, but the way that he plays it, it brings all those different levels to it. It's almost like someone's watched it and gone, oh yeah, actually Jeff Bridges has done this, and maybe we'll just add the little com at the end. Let's do the com. Might grab a few more people into the cinema. Yeah, without his performance of this would be a very different film.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit kooky to start with, isn't it? You have to take a bit of a leap to go, okay, this is what the character is. I'd not seen this before, so I was a little bit sort of like, oh, okay, is this going to be what it's like all the way through? Oh, it's a bit weird. I'm not sure I'm into it. But then you grow into the performance, don't you? As he's growing into the world, it's kind of like a mutual sort of journey between yourself and the characters. You're almost along for the ride with Karen Allen in that sense. Trying to understand what he's going through, what he's learning. And I think it is a testament to Jeff Bridges that he was like, no, this is my vision. This is what I'm doing for the character. This is what I'm gonna learn. This is how I'm gonna structure and move the character, and sticks with it right the way through. And by the end of the film, you almost forget. Really, you almost forget how unhuman he is. It's quite a good performance. I wouldn't have said that it was best supporting actor level performance, but it's certainly a really good performance. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's partly probably the reason why I enjoyed the film as much as I did. I think, like you said, well, if you take him out of it and have somebody else in that, does it come off as good as it does? Probably not. Probably wouldn't have the level of, to be fair, I don't even know the level of cult following, but I guess it wouldn't be so easily obtainable if it wasn't as good a performance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the charm and charisma he brings to it, and again, you've got to. I'll get into the Karen Allen's performance as well, but I think without that, it's a very much stiffer, stuffier, bland performance, because it's not on the scripted page. It's not scripted as this. He says funny moment. He does this. He does that. He imitates this woman, or, he walks awkwardly into the bathroom where the guy and stands next to him at the urinal when he's trying to take a piss. Like there was room for improvisation, and, Carpenter, they did rehearsals as well to work things out. They're like 2 weeks of rehearsals, which again is usually quite rare, I think, for films. But what I think Jeff Bridges does is he absolutely takes a huge swing and a risk with this, because it could, like, he talks about, I listened to the commentary on the DVD, and he talks about what the studio must have thought of the dailies, because they were just showing bits and pieces of his performance. So, here in the film, he's like, hello, greetings, and, and then later on in the film, he's like a lot more kind of human. And they must, Michael Douglas believed in it. He thought John Carpenter was the right guy for it. They apparently wrote about them falling out when they didn't. This performance could absolutely, like you said, Andy, if it stuck where it was all the way through the film, I think it would have lost us, and we wouldn't have been interested in the love story or the adventure or the driving across the America and everything. But it does grow and it does develop, and he learns and adapts. And eventually you kind of, you start to bond with him and you grow with him. And again, you see it through Karen Allen's eyes. But yeah, I think you're both correct. I think there is no film here without the two lead performances. And again, I think Jeff Bridges is allowed to make those jumps and those leaps where, again, it might be cheesy or corny or weird or, completely out of context. But Karen Allen's performance grounds him in a way that it keeps it real, and it allows him to keep grounded and still give that kind of weird, wacky, outlandish performance. But there's a heart to it, and he's tethered to the earth by her, and without her as a scene partner doing what she does best, Jeff Bridges can't go to those heights. So I think this film is really those two performances are incredible. And I think Karen Allen's probably arguably doing some of her best work. I don't know how you thought of her performance as well.
Her initial reaction to him in the house was great. Really, really genuine, understated acting. Because he could have gone the other way and gone, screaming and all this kind of stuff. But she just sort of stands there completely baffled and confused. It looks fucking terrible, mind you. This changing and morphing creature from a baby to a boy to a fully grown man in less than 30 seconds, a minute.
Yeah.
It does fucking terrible. I was like, oh no, Dan, what are you doing to me? But then
it's gonna be shit. Dan's got another shit one.
Yeah. Apart from the little shot outside when he's
upside down.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? But yeah, other than that, I mean, her sort of just her reaction to it, and then she obviously tries to get out the address, doesn't she? And then he sort of corners her, and she just fucking faints. Really, really well done. Just understated, like clever acting. It's like clever acting, because you don't know what you'd fucking do in that situation. You probably would be stunned to complete silence and frozen in place. And then when you're confronted by just gibberish spewing out of his mouth, which I found hilarious as well. Unintentional comedy. It's the unintentional comedy for me. And then she just collapses. Really well done. And then again, just right the way through the film, she's on point for all the reactions and like all the individual moments. Really, really well done. And to be fair, I struggle to think of other films that I've seen her in, apart from Indiana Jones, and that's quite.
She's in Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Of course she is. Of course she is.
But I think she has a kind of a similar role in that to a degree, but it's the opposite end. He's like a horrible bastard, and she's got to kind of bring him down to the human level in a different way. But yeah, like it's such a wonderful performance, and she's so open and believable, and you're glued to it, to both of them. Like, it's such a wonderful balancing act, and I think if either performance was off just by a millimeter, it would throw off the entire film.
Yeah.
What about you, Paul? What did you think to her performance as well?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, especially as you say, especially that first bit, she could have quite easily gone overboard, and it would have immediately brought it up too high of a sort of level, the energy level. If she went up there as well, then you would have immediately gone to a bit of, okay, well, this is a bit farcical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if she matched that energy, that manic, wild, crazy, alien energy, it wouldn't have worked. But yeah,
it is almost the reaction I would have. I would just be like, for God's sake, what now? Like, what is happening now?
Yeah, I love that line where she's like, he's like, define little bit jumpy, and then later on, when she's using the guns to get the bullet, let's call them bullies, or what have you, attacking Jeff Bridges, the Starman, and she uses the gun, and he's like, I thought guns make you a little bit jumpy, and she's like, you make me a little bit jumpy. I love that. Yeah. There's such like great fun delivery, and such a wonderful thing. I also, speaking of her journey, just for context, I know you gave us a very brief, succinct, synopsis there, Paul. I loved it, but just for overall context. So, the Starman, he is invited to Earth by Voyager, which has various recordings in different languages and speeches, and not Star Trek Voyager. No, the Voyager, is it 7? I want to say 7.
Voyager
or 2,
isn't it?
Yeah, 2.
Voyager 2.
Voyager 2.
Sorry, 7 looks like a 2. And it's kind of absorbed. It's kind of absorbed into this sphere, and then immediately we see a spaceship shoot out and come to Earth, and it's intercepted and thrown off course, and then this kind of energy being, let's call it, finds this little cabin. Karen Allen's there. She's watching old videos of her now dead husband, the house painter, Jeff Bridges. They're singing a song together, and she's drinking heavily. She's clearly in the throes of grief and loss and things. And she goes to bed, and then he finds a strand of his hair and grows a body matching her now dead husband, which she now has to grapple with. Not only he looks like him, but he isn't him, and also has to assist the Starman in getting back home, because he knows this planet's now hostile, and he's called the spaceship to come pick him up. He has to get to Arizona in order to be picked up, and Karen Allen's character, Jenny Hayden, has to help him do that. I wanted to say I think the score, which is surprisingly not done by Carpenter, he tends to do a lot of his scores for his films, by Jack Nietzsche, I think his name is. I think it's great. I think it's a fucking great score. I think what the score does really well is it highlights the kind of the wonderment, the kind of love story element, the sci-fi cosmic element, but also it's quite haunting. And I feel like that's kind of everything that Jenny Hayden is going through. This kind of wonderful, yet recalling the past and walking around with her dead husband, that kind of almost like morbid fascination about it, while also kind of showcasing America and the best parts of America and the idealized version of America. And also, you know, beyond the stars as well. So yeah, I love the score. I don't know about you guys.
The one thing, like, which is the biggest compliment for a score, in that unless you're actually thinking about it, you barely notice it's there, because it just does wonderful things to your emotions without you even realizing, without you thinking about it. It was probably the first time I watched it, probably half an hour in, I was suddenly like, oh wait, hang on a minute, what's this music? Think about the music. But yeah, it's great. It does wonderful things to you when you don't even notice it.
No, I agree. I love a good score. Sometimes the big grandiose scores are very welcome, very appreciated. I think I like Lord of the Rings. Obviously, your punchy Indiana Jones, but you need scores in movies that complement what's going on the screen. You know, and they don't have to be mega. They don't have to be in your face. They can be, you know, like with this film, a lot of 80s synth going on, but it's well placed. It's well, it feels like part of the journey as well. So again, I think maybe that was a choice by the studio, by maybe by Carpenter. I don't know, but a very, very good choice. I don't think it's too far off really from
what he would do.
Yeah, I think it's very much on par with what he would do himself. I think
he might, because obviously they went through several directors and several writers before we finally got. Because again, there was a lot of problems with it being too much like E.T. Like it was knocked back a few years from E.T. and things. So yeah, I think maybe that they had the composer first, maybe, and he was kind of a done deal. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself, but yeah, I do think it's a good score, and I think Carpenter has even done like performances of that score or of the different themes. Even though it's not his work, I think he'll go, here's all my films, and they'll do the music. I think so. But
that was sure he's got some great level of pride with it then, because this film didn't do very well in theaters, but it was very well received.
Yeah,
critically well received. I mean, I had a quick
Siskel and Ebert loved it. They were, you know, they're famous for their reviews, but famously they hate most of the things I cover. But this they absolutely adored.
Yeah, I had a look on Rotten Tomatoes just out of curiosity, and it holds 86% with critics and 70% with audiences, and that's you know, for an aggregate frigging score that barely means much, you know, for a film that's from 1984, and that's you know, a decent, respectable score.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the disaster that the box office would suggest it was, really, which is a bit of a shame. When you get these films all the time, don't you? I mean, it's happened quite recently with a lot of films. Some decent films have come out and they've done nothing, and it just shows even back in the 80s that could be the case. I mean, the amount of sci-fi films that were coming out, it just got lost along the way, didn't it? sadly.
Yeah, I mean, like Jeff Bridges and John Carpenter are both very proud. So much so they came together and did the commentary. They sat down and watched it again. A lot of directors don't tend to like to watch their own work, or actors don't tend to like to watch their own work, but they did,
Yeah,
and they
that
loved
says a lot
talking
when
about
an actor, after a period of time, comes back and does the commentary for it. It doesn't happen very much anymore.
No, very rare.
The actors will retrospectively come back and sit on a recording and do it, unless they're going to tear it apart. Did Ben Affleck do that on one? I can't remember. There was some
Armageddon.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ,
Oh.
he's absolutely fucking hammered in it. You can tell he's hammered in that commentary, and he's just railing on the film. You're like, who's allowed him to do this? Who said he could do it?
I think
he sat at home in a recording office at home going, "Oh, I'm just going to drink this fucking whiskey and."
I think what he says. I think one of the famous things he says on it is he says, "I asked Michael Bay, wouldn't it be easier if you to train astronauts to drill as opposed to train drillers to be astronauts?" It's like, you know what? Shut up, Ben. I think that's the parrot.
Typical Michael Bay lyrics. It's quite a very, quite an honest, logical question, because they are training astronauts to be drillers now, because we want to mine asteroids and potentially mine the moon. So you were spot on, Ben, but just don't get fucking rat-arsed when you're doing your DVD commentary, mate.
That's when that little proviso comes up that we as a company do not share the opinions of the actors.
Yeah, God,
Yeah.
It must have come from him. Because even when I watched the El Mariachi with Robert Rodriguez doing the commentary for that, even though it's his film, it still comes up with that as well. We don't share these opinions, even though he's not going to say a bad thing about it, because it spawned his career. And
I think they're just worried. I think they're just worried they'll say something like really offensive and just like covering their own backs. So they're like, join. Robert Rodriguez says, "Join the Nazi youth." We don't support that statement, or something like that.
Good God,
He's
never said that, though.
He will never say that, and he's never said it. But I'm just using that as a fictional example. Yes. Speaking of those special effects, Andy, I know you were saying how poorly done they were. Do you want to know who?
Go on.
Okay. All right. Go on.
Go on.
You said you have your piece. Go on. Have your piece.
I was just going to say it's only the beginning bit, like just when he's obviously when he's been born, shall we say?
Okay.
And he grows up immediately. Oh God, I was just like, oh my God, why are you showing it? It doesn't look good. I get it. I get what you're doing.
It's meant to be freaky. It's meant to be a bit freaky. Yeah.
Well, initially the baby looked like something out of Total Recall. It looked like Quato. I was very confused.
It really did. That was my fault as well. I spent a good 10 minutes thinking, where do I recognize this baby from?
I was like, oh God, he's gonna start telling Karen Allen to start the reactor. And I was like, start the reactor.
Free your mind, Karen Allen. Free your mind.
When he's the boy, it's fine. There's no issues.
Yeah,
he's not
the boy's fine. Yeah,
boy. But then when he stands up and turns around as the guy, and his face is like a millimeter thick, and I was like, oh God, this is
the boy one.
Not in that sense.
The boy one's when his kind of legs and arms extend, isn't it? That's when that happens. So it's like.
I like body horror as much as the next guy, but I know it was dreadful. It's not body horror; it's horrifyingly done. But go on, tell me who.
Speaking, who is responsible? Who is responsible for this?
Make me feel bad for my piece.
Okay, so each section that you've mentioned there was done by a different special effects artist. So most of the effects and the special
that
effects
in itself is
that's worrying. I know. But each section was where they were challenged to do. How do we do this? How do we represent this on screen? So Rick Baker did the baby. So he was famous for doing the American Werewolf in London stuff, all the transformation effects. Dick Smith, I forget what Dick Smith was on. Bear with me. What did he do? Special effects.
You didn't do your research prior?
Oh,
It's a great
Shut
score.
up.
How dare you?
Makeup artist.
Dare you come into this?
You shut up. He's done. He did The Exorcist and other things.
Other things?
Starman and Amadeus, apparently. House on Haunted Hill. But yeah, he's a special effects artist. And not only him, but Stan Winston did the final effect with the head growing. So we are talking literally the best guys in special effects, and they couldn't work this out.
Best guy in special effects.
They
and I'm
couldn't
fucking
do it.
railing on them.
Yes.
What do I know? I don't know anything.
So this is one thing I learned in the commentary that I didn't learn anywhere else. The baby, Rick Baker's baby that he designed, apparently had a very large penis. And they had to cover it up. They had to shoot around this baby's huge dick.
Oh, why?
I don't know. Talk to Rick Baker.
Bridges got arranged.
It was like Jeff Bridges must be hung, so the baby version of him must be really hung very, very well.
Well, okay.
So
alien babies, I suppose. You know, it's possible.
Big baby dick. But yes,
that's Pentridge as the the sexy lady alien. So maybe big dick
swinging
Jeff Bridges alien. Sure, why not?
Big, an extra baby's arm he's got. That would be a very weird alien. Maybe that's what he was thinking. But yeah,
fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, the rest of the kind of optical and special effects were done by ILM, of course. So like the amazing spaceship at the end, that huge kind of chrome globe with the kind of Saturn rings going round and everything.
Is it supposed to be a ship or is it supposed to be a planet? I've read conflicting things this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
I thought it was a ship.
Yeah,
but then
I would have gone with
said that it's a planet, and I was like, what?
I mean, does that? I mean, I guess they're all kind of energy beings anyway. I don't know if maybe they could all fit in that as a planet, and I don't know. I saw it as a ship myself. I saw it as a spaceship, an alien.
No, I did random acknowledgements from across the internet.
Tell us if it's a ship or a planet. You know,
write
in on a postcard
below. Send on a postcard to Jeff Bridges.
With the owner of the big round sphere, please come to customer services.
Your shiny little balls are waiting for you.
Apparently, they had a bit of trouble, ILM, animating and doing the special effects on these because they didn't actually create the spaceships or anything. Apparently, John Carpenter had already kind of come up with the general gist, which is unusual for ILM because usually they create everything. And they, because it was all chrome, they were struggling to kind of photograph it without reflections. So I think eventually they painted them black. And then use that to kind of get the effect that they wanted from the ship and from the larger spaceship and the smaller pod that Starman is in. If he's an energy being, does he really need his own little spaceship? Does he need that?
You're asking too many questions.
Delving deep here now.
Yeah.
No idea.
You're asking about whether or not they should just train astronauts to be drills.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this is where we make fun of Michael Bay and Ben Affleck, and we talk about big baby dicks.
Yes.
So maybe it's not the podcast.
Good God. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
So
Superman needed a ship, and apparently he can fly in space.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can. Well, yeah. Depending on the interpretation, I guess he can breathe in space, or he holds his breath for an extremely long time. Whatever you want to think. What would we like to talk about next? I feel like we've run out of steam all of a sudden. We've run out of our jet engine.
I don't think we have. I think the nature of the film is it's quite light, isn't it? It's a very light film, but then there's still a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we were joking prior to recording that like our last sort of three-way discussion was, about a couple of Holocaust movies. Well, this film like posits that question of, well, we invite aliens to come, don't we? And then when they do, we're going to hunt them down. Our inane sort of human response to something that comes from the outside is to hunt it down and destroy it, even though we quite literally sent a fucking invite. I mean, it's quite an interesting sort of question to ponder in real terms, because what would we do? It's what I like about the way where this film is set is because it's not in a big city. It's not New York. It's not Los Angeles. It's the middle of nowhere. It's the sticks. If something like this were to happen, then law of averages would say, yeah, it would happen somewhere remote, somewhere in the sticks where there's not many people about, just because of the size of the country, if it's the United States or even Europe, Australia, something would, be very rare for something to crash, directly into a major city, for example, without somebody being aware of it. So something like this would happen in, the outer beyond. So I enjoyed the sort of questions it posits to it, because the SETI guy, the search for extra
Charles Martin Smith,
intelligence. He literally says, well, we asked him, we sent this for them to come to us. So what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And nobody gives him a real straight answer. They're all just like kind of, well, we need answers. We want to know what is made of, why he's here, why he's doing this. And it's the fear, isn't the inane fear was what I found interesting. And it intrigues me about what we would just do in that situation. I don't think it'd be too far removed from what this film shows, to be honest with you.
There was a lot more kind of like darker political intrigue and government kind of dodgy things going on. But Carpenter said, I don't want to do that. I've done that. I've made that. I've made those commentaries before. This is a love story. First and foremost, it's a love story, has sci-fi elements, and it's a road trip, and it's a across America kind of movie where these characters grow together. He was inspired by films like Brief Encounter and The Defiant Ones and It Happened One Night and the 39 Steps, where these two characters who don't seemingly have a lot in common or like each other, all the way throughout the film they grow together and there is an understanding or a love there that where there wasn't at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
He couldn't quite help himself, could he? Because basically everyone that's chasing him is trying to kill him. So he couldn't really help but to put those, the political ideals in. And as soon as the spaceship gets close to us, they try and shoot it down.
I think you do need it. And you've got Richard Jekyll going, he's taken the identity of a house painter and he's tooling around in America in a 1977 Mustang. You've got all that. And I think there's enough of that, but I'm kind of glad we don't get a little too much of it, that it overshadows. Again, the effects are good for the most part. They're effective and they're fun, and the him using his balls. You gotta love those balls, and I like that there's a limited number of them, and you can see every time he uses one, he's like, "Shit, I've only got this many left, and what am I going to do without them?" I like that there's a limited, reserve of ammo, so to speak. I think that's because it heightens the stakes a little bit, not loads, but and we don't know what they can do, but we always know when they come out, something kind of cool or amazing or unique is going to happen. And I'm glad that, again, it's first and foremost a love story about these two characters. And Carpenter said, he didn't have to worry about like suspense or, doing interesting shot compositions or anything like that. He just had to, quote unquote, he said he had to lay the carpet for the performances. And I think he does that brilliantly. Yeah. And again, you don't see rom-coms shot like this, so I don't know if you can call it a rom-com. Like my idea of a rom-com, or I mean, if more rom-coms were like this, I might be more interested, to be honest. He said he wanted to avoid sentimentality, and Jeff Bridges again agreed with this on the commentary. He said, "I've got to save all that sentimentality for that ending scene. That one moment has to have all the sentimentality. Everything else has to have, has to avoid that, because again, it takes away that kind of, And again, I think sometimes when you look back on relationships and things, you can look with kind of rose-tinted glasses, and you can be like, "Oh, isn't love wonderful? And isn't it, perfect?" And it's not really that. We might. our memories might color it in that way, but it's not quite the same. It is awkward and strange and weird, and trying to have people fit together in a certain way is difficult. And I think a lot of those rom-coms do fall into that and are very guilty of that. And I don't think this one is. And this is another thing. In the commentary, they describe it as "quote unquote" a girly picture, which I think what they're saying really is it's a romance. It's a romance. But I think back in these, I wouldn't use. I don't think we use the term girly now. I don't think it's a girly picture, because we all three men here have enjoyed this film. And we're not women, and even if we were, I think we'd enjoy it anyway. I don't think it's. But I think what they were trying to say was, I think at that time in the mid 1980s, real men could say, I like this film that happens to be a romance. That's what I think they were saying. They weren't ashamed to go, oh, it's it's a rom-com or something, or it's it's one of those girly pictures or films for women. I think it's one of those where it has those elements, but there's enough it avoids the kind of cheesy, sappy, self-indulgent tripe that a lot of romantic comedies can fall into. I think.
Go on, say what you feel.
I like romantic comedies. I think there are good ones out there. Don't get me wrong. I just think there's a lot of bad ones as well. I think, and I think this avoids a lot of those tropes and trappings that a lot of bad rom-coms could easily fall into.
No, I think the avoidance of tropes is what I enjoyed most of the film. And again, it is the trope of the alien landing in the big city. It is the trope of, oh, he's perfect, isn't he? I love him for all time, and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't do any of that. It doesn't do any of that. The sentimentality literally is, keep hold of this. Our son will know what to do, and you're like, oh, fucking hell. It doesn't really say, I'll always be with you, I'll love you forever, and then freezing in the Atlantic and sinking to the bottom of the Titanic kind of stuff. It doesn't do any of that. I think he's almost quite cold in the way he leaves as well. It's kind of like
I think this is the best way to put it.
I've given you everything that I can give you, so bye-bye.
I think this is the best way I can put it. It doesn't romanticize romance.
Because absolutely.
And one of my favorite scenes, in fact, is when they're almost at the crater. So they're traveling to Arizona to this huge crater, real crater as well, like genuine crater. One of the biggest in the world, apparently. Which I think there's a bigger one in Mexico, but it's massive. And they
mile
wide,
mile wide and 500 feet deep.
Always crazy.
Fascinated by that crater.
And they were running up and down it, and they were there. The actors were there. Karen and Jeff. Running past all
helicopters.
And Carpenter flies one of the helicopters because he could fly helicopters. He's a trained pilot.
Of course he can.
Of course he is.
They're just firing the guns as well.
John Carpenter, of course he is. He makes a cameo. You can see him in some of the shots where he's like looking up at the ship and stuff. But on the way there, there's a wonderful scene. Yeah, there's a wonderful scene.
Had the revelation. I was like, I recognize that pilot.
that mustache is familiar. That's why. But one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, and I don't think it's one that's talked about a lot. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about favorite scenes coming up. But for me, it's this one scene towards the end. They've made love. They've the revelation of Karen Allen now having a baby, given the ability to have a baby again. Again, bit weird, maybe a bit
weird.
So weird.
We'll talk about it. Let me talk about the good stuff. Let me talk about the good stuff first. No, maybe not. We'll get to it. But I think my favorite scene, again, I was aware of some of the more famous lines and scenes just because I'd seen them dotted about on stuff. But there's a scene where they're in the car and they're a romantic couple now, so to speak. They're together. They've been together physically, and he's listing all the things he's going to miss about planet Earth. Like he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to miss the Dutch apple pie. I'm going to miss the cook who I, got a lift from. I'm going to miss, all these kind of things like the food and the eating. He talks about that, but he can't bring himself to say that he's going to miss Jenny." And because of that, for me, that's when he is like fully human. That's when it goes, if I say this, it makes it real. And I know I have to go. She knows I have to go. She can't live on my planet. I can't live on this one. And he knows if he says it, it'll make it real. It'll hurt him and it'll hurt her. And it'll make it all the more painful. And for me, that moment is where he goes, yeah, he's a human now, because he knows not to say it. But he waits. And again, that's Carpenter going, no, not yet. No sentimentality just yet. We're going to wait right until the last moment of the film till you get that sentimentality. I think that's a wonderful thing that he comes to that realization, and he's not taught, he's not told, he just knows instinctively, because now he's truly become a human being in that moment for me.
Very good point. Yeah,
I
agree. It was a very, very, very good moment. Very strong. It's very honest filmmaking as well, isn't it? It's very honest filmmaking. It's pretty much a very it is a human sort of way of dealing with things, isn't it? We avoid things, don't we, until we absolutely have to deal with them. Whether it's grief, whether it's moving on from something, whether it's leaving something behind, or whether it's facing something head on, we tend to avoid as much as possible, unless we absolutely have to, unless we've got no choice but to face it. So yeah, it is a very human thing to see and observe. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, what other favourite scenes do we have? I've gone with mine. So Paul, what were some of your favourite scenes?
Favorite scenes. I think
again, I'm asking you, the man with no memory.
Yes,
his favorite.
I appreciate that greatly.
I can remind you of some if you like, if that's helpful.
I think the thing with this film is I think as Andy said, it's like it almost like chugs along a bit. It doesn't, like, there aren't peaks and troughs. It's almost just gently
steady
rolling through, and it's almost, when you're watching it, it's like, as we said, you question if there's the com part of it in the rom-com. Sometimes you're questioning, really, is there the rom bit in the rom-com as well? In the way that it's sort of portrayed, it's almost like he's just an alien and she's falling in love with him just because of what he looks like, and he's just a bit like, well, I'm just on a journey, mate, and you're giving me a lift. Great, thanks. And this, the sci-fi, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and it's an enjoyable movie throughout, but sometimes it's just kind of steadily moving along. Favorite scene, that's why I struggle with it.
I'm glad you were padding for time trying to think of one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one I like. I like the deer scene, the scene with the deer.
Yes.
I think that's quite cool. We've got Ted White as this big kind of burly hunter. He's a stuntman. He played. He's returning to Prattle World because we a few years ago talked about the Friday the 13th movies. He was Jason in the final chapter, Friday Part 4, which never call anything the final anything, because it never is. So don't put the final. How many Final Fantasies have they fucking been? There's been a lot of Final Fantasy games, hasn't there? Stop fucking putting the word final in shit. Final Fight, there's a lot of them as well, sequel after sequel. Stop putting that word in things, titles for stuff that is a franchise. Just don't do it. It's annoying. Anyway, Final Friday, Freddy's Final Nightmare, or whatever. There's a last one or something like that. But stop saying it's the last one in the title of the film when you know it's not going to be the last one. It's a pet peeve of mine. Just don't do it. But yeah, so he is there, and he's this burly hunter, and Starman's kind of not really understanding why they've done what they've done. And then Karen Allen has the conversation. She tries to leave. She goes, "Here's the map. Go do it," because again, this is a real moment for her as well, because she can't quite face being with her husband. and helping this person that's not quite a husband that is. She says, I want to help you, but I want to keep you at arm's distance. I can't, again, it's too real for me to be with you and to look at you and to spend time with you and help you. It's too real. And she tries to leave, and then you realize Starman's outside healing this deer, which is a real deer as well. It's a real deer that they drugged. I think PETA was there, or some environmental animal agency was there watching them. But they drugged a deer to put it to sleep, and then they injected it with another drug to wake it up. And Jeff Daniels was really stood there with this fake glowing hand.
Daniels?
And sorry, not Jeff Daniels. That's the other guy.
Jeff Daniels was there.
To be fair, if Jeff Daniels, I could see kind of Jeff Daniels doing it. Maybe like I saw Dumb and Dumber. He's, it's not too far a jump. But yeah, Jeff Bridges is having this really kind of beautiful moment, and he helps the deer, and it runs off, and he supports it, and yeah, so that like kind of he lived that experience almost, that he was Starman healing this deer, bringing it back to life. And I do love the fight afterwards. I think the fight's great, and that's a wonderful moment.
Again, with that deer scene, it's very understated, isn't it? We stay at a distance from it. We're not. It's not in your face. There's no crescendo of score. Like you see the light in his hand, but it's not. It's quite shallow, isn't it? It's quite a shallow light he uses. So there's no big flash. There's no big bright anything. It is just very like small. It's a small moment, and I like that, because obviously if done in any other way, like modern Hollywood, it'd be fucking bright and cheerful, and oh my god, he's saving it, all this kind of stuff. But it's really small. She doesn't quite understand what's going on, and there's that waitress behind her is watching as well.
Yes,
like nobody really understands what's happening, and it just keeps it very, very small. And then it happens, and it runs off, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, cool. And even he just kind of sort of watches it leave, and then that's it. It's such a nice tight moment. It's very clever filmmaking. I really like that scene as well. Yeah. I think my favorite scene is when he sat in the car with that cook. Great bit of dialogue.
Yes,
great bit of dialogue. You get a little fleck of comedy with the cigarette and everything. But I think it's just that's a moment when he's trying to separate himself, isn't he? As well, he's trying to go on again, probably because it's too difficult or whatever. So he's trying to go on his own way. I think that's a great little scene in this Journeyman movie. Really good little scene. Yeah, it impacts him heavily, because that's what he says. He says later on, doesn't he? Like, I'll miss the cook, and we're like, oh fucking hell! It's just a brief encounter with somebody who hasn't got a frigging clue what's going on. Just a hitchhiker taking him on his way, and it's a fleeting moment. It's a fleeting moment that means nothing, if anything at all, and yet it has a massive impact on him as a character. Yeah, just really well done. Really well.
Well, you just name dropped one of the films that was the inspiration, Brief Encounter.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's all it is. That's what he has. He has these small moments that to like unaware people just mean nothing, but then they mean so much to him.
I love as well. Like again, it's Carpenter's. He's not only is he kind of he's done the dark, disturbing, dystopian futures, and he's done the thing where everyone distrusts each other, everyone hates each other, and the cynical like Snake from Escape from New York and things like that. In this film, almost every person they encounter is trying to help them. Every person who is not part of the government, for the most part, apart from Charles Martin Smith, are all trying to help. The indigenous mum in the back of the pickup truck, the guy at the motel, the cook, the diner woman, the other diner woman is trying to help as well.
The hot rod guy.
The hot rod guy, he literally is like he's good. Yeah, throws that gas
guy who just has a barrel of gas just ready to explode.
Yeah. He's in a world of trouble, that guy.
God knows what happens to him. He probably gets locked up for terrorism offences. But like he just helps, and it's the idea of like, okay, there is inane fear, but then there's also the power of humanity as well. There's a
Mm.
different side to it, isn't it? That you hope would be the case if somebody else came from elsewhere. You'd hope that
Yeah.
would be the case, that people would help, people would extend arms of friendship,
Mm.
and I think that's why there's the two sides to the story, isn't there? There's the hope and
Mm.
then there's the fear. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mm. Definitely,
But again, it's
definitely.
not in your face. It's not in your face.
No,
Like,
no.
they
It's a very
people help. They're not going, "Oh, I'll help you because I know you're an alien man." They just do it because they just, oh, these people need help. Yeah, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Sure.
yes.
I
They
need
don't
to
think
go. I need to
don't
go
think
east.
anything of it.
Yeah, I need to go east, or I need to go west as quickly as possible. Yeah, I'll take you. All right.
Yeah. I do think the hot rod guy oversold it ever so slightly. I need to
Yeah,
go east.
well,
Okay. Yeah, gee willy, I'll do that for you.
yeah. It was a bit like, oh,
He was, yeah. I was
Probably
like,
half
okay.
my dinner here on the
Yeah.
side.
Karen, don't do it. He's got ulterior motives.
I got a big baby dick too.
And don't worry about the big barrel of gas behind us.
We'll discuss that later.
Oh dear. I do love that scene as well with like they get caught at the end just as they're getting towards the crater. They get caught, and Charles Melton Smith, and that's the biggest fucking cop I've ever seen in my life. That guy,
fucking
he's
massive.
fucking huge.
Yeah.
The shot as well is like highlighting his face, and Charles Martin Smith walks in, and he's like he's
Yeah.
like 5 foot, and this guy's like 8 foot, and he's like, it's like fucking hell, like he looks like an alien almost, like just 'cause he looks like a Chewbacca style kind of alien. He's massive. But yeah, I do like that scene where finally Charles Martin Smith of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, he's part of that organization. It's his dream to learn and to be have a close encounter with an alien. He finally gets what he wants. He's nervous, he's not sure, and then Starman, he says, yes, we have been here before, and he was like, how can I help you? And he's like, just let him go home. He's dying. He's clearly dying. He's like, I can't do it. And then he starts talking about what he's learned about humanity, and he says, you're at your best when everything is at its worst, which I thought was a really quite a wonderful kind of strangely oddly kind of intelligent assessment of planet Earth and the human race, and
The great
the wet-
conundrum, isn't it?
yeah, it's so fascinating, and again that's part of the again it's a wonderfully balanced film because it's never too much of anything. It's never too much of a romance, but that does come first. I'd say that you get more focus on that than anything else, but you like Paul said, it steadily kind of chugs along, and you get the flex of the sci-fi and the flex of the road movie and the comedy and everything. So yeah, and do we think it's maybe a touch too long?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I do think there are some bits, like even the Vegas bit was like, yeah, it's a nice little moment. See Vegas you're on a road trip, but also,
Do we need it?
What did it add?
There was a scene they cut, which Jeff Bridges kind of championed to be in, and it was Starman at the motel before the cops try and break into their car and everything. Starman does like a line dance with all these kind of students, and Jeff Bridges campaigned for that to remain in the film because it was running a bit long, and he said that this is the last time Starman gets to have any fun. And Carpenter was almost convinced that he needed to keep it in the film, but ultimately he cut the scene. But I think you probably could have cut the Vegas scene, but I guess they needed that so they could be tracked and then they could be found. But also they could have robbed a car and stolen it or something.
Yeah. I mean, they already knew at that point where they were heading to. They'd already worked that out.
They worked that out. Yeah, true.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? He's got to be going for the crater.
Yeah,
that's where the trajectory was going. And then they had the Vegas scene, and then we cut back, and he goes, "Yeah, they've got to be definitely heading for the crater because that's where the trajectory was going." It's like we just had this scene, literally 5 minutes ago.
It's like weird bits like that. Like it makes sense now that there was going to be a line dance scene with those students because there was almost that weird scene where they booked in and it was like, yeah, but away from this lot. It's like, well, okay, well,
Yeah.
and that's never heard from again.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to cut the line dancing, you may as well cut that bit as well, because we don't really need to see them checking in. Like,
No.
No.
I know.
I do like the scene where she forgets herself when they're in the motel. She forgets herself and
Yeah.
she goes to take her top off in
Yeah.
front of him, and she goes, "Oh God, I forgot you're not Scott. You're not my dead husband." Which again is kind of a sweet kind of indication that she's softening and slowly kind of falling in love and accepting it. But then again, there are. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but there are some kind of slightly weird or problematic elements to it.
He's a creep.
Yeah. All right then, Paul. You lead us with that. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
I mean, even with like the motel scene, and then he's watching the film, and then immediately starts reenacting the things on her while she's asleep. The guy's great.
Yeah, it's a bit. But again, I don't know. I get what they're trying to do because he doesn't quite understand. But then later on, he does say, "I understand mating and reproduction as it is," and I'm like, yeah, but do you? Because you don't seem to know how it works. Maybe you know anatomically and scientifically. Maybe
What else
how
were
it
you
works.
watching on that TV, Starman?
Yeah. What was it from? What's the film from Eternity? Eternity something on the beach when they're rolling around. From Here to Eternity. From Here to Eternity, I think it is. And then later they managed to jump on the train. Did you know the train was actually a model? There was no actual train. That was not a train. It was a special effect for some reason. But there you go.
Effect.
And then the love scene was done on a sound stage because he's going to catch pneumonia, and then they have sex. Okay, can he get pneumonia? But yeah, so I think there is something where it feels there's a little bit where I feel like this is almost like a severely neurodivergent person as opposed to an alien, like or someone who has some sort of maybe learning difficulty. And I felt sometimes it was encroaching on that, and especially in the love scene, I was like, I don't know if this is okay. He's still trying to learn Earth's customs. How young is he? How old is he? Are we even? Is this even a thing anymore? I'm not sure. Am I questioning too much? Maybe. But then also the kind of faces he's pulling, I'm like, okay, this is odd for and a bit weird. It doesn't go on for too long, luckily. It doesn't weird me out too much. And then we learned earlier in the film that Jenny can't have children. They never had. Her and Scott never had children. But through their lovemaking, Starman has given her a child, and she's like, I can't believe it, And he's like, and then he does ask, which I thought was quite ahead of its time, for something like this. He asks, he is pro-choice. Starman is pro-choice, and he says, "Do you want this baby?" And she, of course, she does want this baby because it's part her, part Scott, and part Starman. And this child is now like the Messiah child, and he'll know everything. He has this little ball now, and he'll know what to do, and he'll know everything that Starman knows as well. But yeah, I can see why some people maybe that could be seen as somewhat problematic. I think in a way, yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I'm not disagreeing with you, absolutely.
I'm definitely in that camp because it is all sorts of creep. Like
she's a little bit.
She's falling in love with him. Yeah, she's falling in love with him based on what she remembers of that face, but that's now a different person.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is then sort of weirdly using her to learn about the way that us humans do things, and then she can't have a baby, and he's just decided, oh well, I'll fix that for you, have a baby. And then, would you like to keep the baby, by the way?
But I mean at least he offers the choice, I guess. There's that
beforehand.
do you want a baby?
I can fix that for you
while I'm here.
I do think there was maybe a different way to do that scene.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was a bit like, oh, you're actually falling into a little bit of a romance trope there. They have to copulate. I'm like, oh, come on, right? Okay. I was like, no.
You're taking all the romance out by calling it copulating.
Well, because I didn't think it fit with the tone. To be honest, But
No,
I thought it was
I
a
think you
little
might
bit.
be
I thought it
right.
was a little bit too. It was a little bit too obvious. I thought, like, okay, I don't buy that she's that comfortable where they would at
It
that
made
point.
me, yeah,
I
they're on
think,
a,
I
like
think,
a
I
very
think there was a way
cult
to do it.
train.
I think there's a way to do it where she says, like, part of her grief is that she was never able to have a child with her husband, and then he's passed away. And I feel like there was a way that maybe could have been done where it's a gift. I'm giving you what you always wanted, so that you could have a piece of Scott back without having sex. Like, I think that there must
I think
there must be a
he could have.
different way they could have done that and sort of.
I'm
have
sure.
it
I'm
be-
sure they've done it. They've done it in some of the film where they touch the stomach and they go.
Yeah.
You know, I think maybe Dogma actually. I think in Dogma, she touches her stomach and goes, "Oh, you can have children again now."
Yeah,
At the end of
but
the film,
I don't even think that. I think just like because it's obviously it's quite clear that that's a major source of her grief. Is
Yeah.
that she the only thing she's got to remember Scott by is pictures and this
films
film.
and bit of hair.
I feel like one of those those fears was could have been this great gift of this life that she's always wanted and wasn't able to have, and not just because that she can't conceive, but because he's no longer there as well. I just feel like there must have been a different way to do that to make it seem much more emotionally impactful. Like they have this connection by the end of the film, and maybe with his last bit of strength before he says like, yeah, I'm gonna die here, but I'm fine, I'm safe now because we've made it. I've got just enough to give you what you've always wanted, and then leave it at that. Leave it maybe open to an audience interpretation. Maybe she has some kind of inkling. She knows of Jesus. I'm pregnant now. Anything just to make it a little less intrusive, a little less weird.
Yeah.
There must have been some other way to do it because that would have, like you say, with the sentimentality and with the romance right at the end, it could have been like a peak at the end of the film. Oh, he's given her this child. Like here's this ball. Your child will understand, and then leave it at that.
Yeah.
Like how is he giving her that gift? How does he do it? We don't know because he brings a deer back to life. Play with that, not have it so obvious that oh god,
Yeah, we have to have sex in order to fix
I think
your
because he's able
reproductive organs. And,
because we see that he can gift life. Do it in that way. Do it where it's just as subtle as bringing the deer back to life. But that's just me.
activate the ball, activate the last ball, and leave it
and then
at
just
that.
leave it at that.
Yeah, and
Like,
just go, and just be like, oh, where's it
have
gone?
it
What's it
illuminate.
done? Yeah.
Have it illuminate and then hand it over and then have that line. But he has those lines that he says, yours and Scott's son will understand.
Yeah.
What?
Well, fellas, you might not know this, but there was a sequel TV show.
I didn't.
Yes, it didn't last.
It did not last. I think it was 1 or 2 seasons at most. So Robert Hayes of Airplane fame, who again Lloyd Bridges, Jeff Bridges' dad, hung upside down in this film. Lloyd Bridges hung upside down in Airplane. He comes back. He possesses a new body, and he meets Christopher Daniel Barnes, who plays his teenage son, and they go looking for the missing Jenny Hayden. I don't think it's that interesting when they find her. I think she's like she's like an artist somewhere or something. But they go around, and he's got a singular silver ball that he goes around and righting wrongs and fixing things and helping people as he goes. And I think I think the body he possesses is like a horny photojournalist or something. But that's.
I mean, that tracks.
Yeah, fair enough. That does link to the film. But what is interesting is that Robert Hayes and Christopher Daniel Barnes would go on to voice 2 very famous superheroes in the 90s. Robert Hayes voiced Iron Man in the 90s cartoon, and Christopher Daniel Barnes voiced Spider-Man in the Spider-Man animated series.
Nice.
And they would team up in the later series. They were reunited once again when they fought Venom and Carnage. So there you go. Can bring it back to Spider-Man anytime. There's all the connections there. But yeah, so yeah. We are slowly winding down this podcast. Is there anything else you guys want to say? Is there anything else we want to bring up? I'll go through some trivia shortly, but is there anything you want to say? Are you glad you watched this? Was it more enjoyable than Escape from Soberbores? And did you have more fun? Were you inspired to be more romantic in your life or appreciate
No.
things? No.
I didn't anticipate to enjoy this film as much as I did.
Hmm.
I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch, but I do think it has its charms. It's really well performed. It's really well directed, understatedly so, especially from a director where everything is very intense, visually, graphically. It's almost otherworldly in a sense. It's almost parallel universe John Carpenter in a way. So, yeah, I did very much enjoy it. It's probably one that I'll go back to at some point as well and rewatch it. So yeah, no, really enjoyed it.
Oh, what about you, Paul? Minus all the creepiness.
I would agree. I'm glad I watched it. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. I thought it was going to be one of your weird ones rather than one of the enjoyable ones.
To cast a deadly spell again.
Yes, exactly that. I mean, if I probably looked hard enough, there probably are some similarities there. But yeah, it's a nice, moving, doesn't go too wild anywhere. You could quite happily watch this, even if your mind. It's one of those days and you can't concentrate on something. You could probably watch this and enjoy it. There's probably one of its failings as well as one of its championship points. It kind of hits a lot of different points without really nailing any of them. So you're going to enjoy it, but are you going to walk away saying, oh yeah, everyone has to watch that? Probably not.
It's probably not as rewatchable as a lot of Carpenter films, I think.
Yeah.
I think you will put on The Thing, you will put on Escape from New York, Assault on Precinct 13. I think those have more of a rewatch quality than this does. But yeah, I'd like to revisit this at some point. But yeah, I think so. I think so too. Yeah, I've been asking this of all my guests so far, so I don't forget. Are you, as this is Alien Month, are you both believers?
Yeah,
That you're an alien. Yeah, you're definitely an alien.
I'm fucking. That was one of my nicknames at school was Alien or Alien Head because I've got a big fucking weird head. Yes, I'm definitely an alien. I'm definitely a Starman, a creepy weird Starman with a big baby dick.
And big shiny balls.
Wait a second. Yeah, the only place I'm growing exponentially is my stomach. That's the only area of my gut. Just expanding completely. Yeah, and Andy, you said you do believe in aliens.
Yeah, I think it'd be a very sad and lonely universe if we're the only bullshit species out there that's talking nonsense, to be quite honest with you. I really do. And I hope that's not the case. I hope we're not fucking alone. Because it's very, very depressing to think of in that way. The vastness of space as it is, there's got to be some other dickweeds out there talking about some movie from 40 odd years ago. You know what I mean? Well, it's 40 years this year, isn't it? So yeah, there has to be, doesn't there? So yeah, and hopefully they're not gonna come and wipe us out like an Independence Day. Instead, they're gonna crash in Midwest America and travel around in a 1970s car and upset Karen Allen. So yeah, that's my hope. That's my hope.
Upsetting all the Karens of the world.
Yeah. There's a lot of fucking weird shit out there. People see stuff all the time. There's got to be something to it. There has to be something to it. But yeah, I guess maybe we'll see, won't we?
Only time will tell. But Paul, what about you? Are you a believer as well?
Other than yourself, of course. There's definitely some sort of life out there somewhere. Even statistically speaking, the universe is massive. There's got to be something, whether it's life as we know it or it's got anywhere near the level of communication that we have, or they've already been and destroyed themselves like we're bound to at some point.
Maybe.
Time has gone on for a long old while. Yeah. So whether or not they exist in the same place in us, in the time, then who knows? But something's out there somewhere.
Hmm.
And, in this phone call.
Well, yes, definitely. Funnily enough, because I watched the commentary, both Jeff Bridges asked this question. Funnily enough, even though I was already doing it weeks ago when I did District 9, when I initially recorded that, Jeff Bridges asked John Carpenter. So John Carpenter says flatly, absolutely not. Do not believe in aliens. Absolutely not. But Jeff Bridges, and he shoots the question back at him, and he goes, you know what? I imagine the truth is much stranger than anything we can come up with. So that's I think so. For what we conceive as aliens, this in this one, he was an energy being, and who knows what aliens could be and how we perceive them, or gods or what have you. Angels, whatever you want to perceive as, but that was the question I wanted to posit to both of you. Before we come to an end,
maybe there is no space,
no time,
simulation,
no existence.
It's the Matrix. We're in the walls.
I did want to say as well, the love scene kind of made me think a little bit of Terminator, which actually came out the same year as well. Like that kind of, these two people from two different worlds coming together, having one night of passion, and then they're off, and the child is going to be this savior character. I just thought there was a little kind of on a road movie, or trying to get away from these people, or this Terminator. I thought there was some kind of similarity there. I felt with that love scene, whether it's as well handled as in Terminator, or I don't think it is, but there you have it. But yes, was there any more trivia I want to give us before we finished? Oh yes, the young pictures of Jeff Bridges, they're actually his mother's photos, and she said if they are lost or destroyed, somebody is in some horrendous trouble. So she was quite serious about that whole thing.
Don't doubt it.
Dean Reiser did a huge rewrite of the script. However, the Writers Guild, they tend to give credits to the original writers of the script. But John Carpenter championed him. He said, "No, this is the script I directed. I haven't met these guys. I don't know who they are." But the Writers Guild still gave the credit to the original writers. John Carpenter thanked the writer in the credits, but got a fine because he did that.
Womp womp.
Had to pay a fine, but I'm sure he.
Good old
sure
Hollywood. Shit on the fucking little guy.
The little guy doing a quick rewrite, because he was known for being a script doctor, Dean Reiser.
Yeah.
So again, Jeff Bridges kind of rehearsed. He based his character on a bird, like the way his head is bobbing around like a bird, and and that kind of awkward kind of movements he was doing. Yeah. He rehearsed with a dancer as well, and there was also he did rehearsals naked in his own house with a camera. His wife walked in, and then she very quickly walked out of the room because she thought he was doing something weird, which he was acting.
It doesn't get much weirder.
Yeah. I'm doing acting. Leave me alone. Don't disturb me when I'm cleaning my room.
My missus does that when I'm playing with my lightsabers. Innuendo.
Oh, big baby dick. Right.
Is it part of a shared universe with?
Oh, here we go.
Could we have Starman versus the Thing? No, fucking no. I'm just gonna say no.
No, I don't want to see that. I don't. But the films are so tonally different. It's like the hope of humanity, and then the end. Like humanity is the worst thing ever. You just couldn't
glorified end of humanity.
Just like, and then just use one of his balls to blow him up. I imagine, or just like eradicate the infection, or I don't fucking, or maybe use the spaceship the thing had made, and jump in that, and they'd be off as well. I don't know, but I don't know if that would be the crossover I want to see between those two franchises.
I mean, you've seen worse films.
True. Yeah, there is that.
The title credits, the fonts are exactly the same.
Oh shit, they are, aren't they? Yeah. Maybe Andy's onto something. Maybe they're
Let's
happening.
face it, baby. These days, you gotta have a sequel.
You gotta have an expanded universe.
Yeah, the multiverse of Star Wars.
Gotta have a multiverse.
Fucking hell.
I'm not buying that comic book continuation if there is one, or crossover. But we do have a couple.
There hasn't been a comic book of that, to be fair. Jesus.
I'm sure somebody's written it, and it's like the things like there, like he's half Starman, half the thing, and it's like, and then all of a sudden he's like, define love.
Define simulation.
Define little bit jumpy. Yeah. Greetings. I love that bit at the start where he's trying to get all the different languages with Jenny Hayden. He's like scab, and then he's like speaking in Japanese, and then he does a really horrible impression of the German guy on the recording.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I know we didn't talk about him, but I do like Charles Martin Smith in this. I think he's very good. He's not in it a lot, but I think his performances. He does what he needs to do when he needs to do it, and he's great. But you don't get too much time with him. I actually quite like his friend, the helicopter pilot, as well. I thought he was a really cool character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we mentioned this scene either. Like the bit where Jenny looks like she's being kidnapped, and the guy comes out with a tire iron, and he's like, "Greetings," and then he lights up the fire iron, and then for some reason blows up a tree behind him. Who knows?
Yeah.
The thing against trees.
Get that effect in there.
Yeah, throw an effect. And there was another thing as well. You know, when the car goes into the gas station and Jenny is shot and seemingly dead, and he brings her back to life. Actually, that's when he should have given her a baby, when he heals her and goes, "Oh, you're pregnant as well." That's when he should have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have done it. Because I've healed your body. I've healed it of all. It's fixed, including your reproductive system, and also popped a baby in there while we were doing it with my glowing hand. But yeah, there you go. But yes, enough of that. So we have listener comments. I managed to get a couple of listener comments. A couple of people watched this before we finish. So I am Jack's Musings. He allowed me to read out his Letterboxd review. So I think he probably liked it a little bit more than ourselves. He gave it 4.5 stars, and he put a little heart on there as well, a like on Letterboxd, which you can do. He says, "I can only assume Dustin Hoffman saw Jeff Bridges' performance in Starman as he pretty much steals it wholesale for Rain Man a few years later. He's matched, if not surpassed, by Karen Allen, how every 80s casting director slept on her after Raiders is beyond me. She's out of this world. She's a star, man."
Nice.
There you go.
Very good, Mr.
Nice.
Bond.
Yeah, I think pretty much what we were kind of talking about as well, like the neurodivergent element of his kind of autistic elements of it.
There is a bit Forrest Gump. Jenny.
Jenny.
Yeah.
I need to go to Arizona. Yeah, there is a bit of that. He added a little bit more as well. So he says, and if anybody else hears this, if this has been unseen on your watch list for years, like it was for me, you should move it up to the top immediately. It's another Carpenter classic.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Derek Esoteric, my boss, he watched Starman, and he has his own opinions as well. He says he sent me another email, a lovely email, very professional of him. Hi Dan. Hi Dan, really enjoyed Starman. Basically, E.T. with grown-ups. Fantastic performance from Jeff Bridges, although I did find his facial expression on the train with Karen Allen when he releases the Kraken a tad disturbing, which we've discussed. And he even time codes when he's releasing the Kraken as well.
Oh, good.
Interesting fact, the dead deer guy is Ted White, who played Jason in Friday the 13th, which again we've mentioned. And Derek says, it's a thumbs up from me. So that is is his review. That's all of our comments. So not too
Marvelous.
dissimilar to the way we feel. But I'm glad I picked this one because I wanted kind of a friendly alien, not a kind of weird, wacky, bizarre, freaky thing. I wanted to do something a bit nicer, a little sweeter for Paul, so he didn't go home and have to talk to his therapist for 4 weeks straight or anything. So it all worked together. And I thought, Andy's a big Carpenter fan. I'm a big Carpenter fan. It would be interesting to have a look at this because it is often forgotten and maybe underappreciated because of that. But yeah, I think it was a good choice given last week's choice was a Patreon pick, District 9. And yeah, this one I think it fills that kind of friendly alien vibe, but it kind of steers away from all those, again, like we talked about, it steers away from a lot of the kind of alien comes to earth tropes. Not evil, not malevolent, just a kind of regular alien guy. And again, he's not visually an alien, but he's physically an alien, even though he's in a human body, which I appreciated. Anything else you guys want to say before we finish?
Can't think of nothing. Just
Right.
thank God you picked a decent one.
I did. Fuck's sake! Like, it's a mix. I'm not the shit film guy. I'm trying to tell you guys. I'm trying to. I feel like I have to convince. I have to convince everybody every week I'm not the shit film guy. I do know what quality films are. It's all right. I have.
If everybody in the room is saying one thing, and you're saying the other thing.
I'm the common denominator. I'm the alien. I'm the alien again. I see. How it is.
And we'll hunt you down and send you back where you came from.
Just you remember, Paul, the films we watched last time, that was Andy's pick. That Andy picked those. That wasn't me. That was
That's
Andy.
true.
Yeah, but they weren't shit.
Yeah, I know they're not shit. This wasn't shit. I don't pick all of the films I pick are not shit. And this year, anyway, is about the patrons. It's 2024. I'm giving my guests the option to make the choices, and then the patrons pick. So actually, if anything, if there's any shit films coming your way, you can blame my guest and you can blame the patrons. All right, it's not me this year.
Blame
honestly.
everyone.
Yeah,
Blame everyone else, but
apart from maybe the theme months when I've kind of picked stuff, but apart from that, everything else is pretty much Patreon pick this year. But Paul, you are a wonderful human being, and
Since when?
You lie.
since you started immediately growing into a man 30 seconds before this podcast. Immediately. And I just want you to tell us what you're up to. You've got some stuff coming up. You have a newsletter that I never write for because I'm awful. Too busy being an alien, clearly, to write a single paragraph, not even a paragraph, really.
Yeah,
that's all I have to do. That's all I have to do. Like, me and Andy are shit. So tell us why you're so good.
Well, I won't go that far, but that's very kind of you. Yes, the newsletter has little bits of updates from various people that you have probably heard of. Dan sometimes sends things in. Andy does as well. You got Mike Burton, Tony Farina, Comics in Motion, all sorts of people. And then I also just chuck in some of the latest pop news headlines in there as well, just for people to sort of keep an eye on what's going on in the world, in, video games, comics, TV, movies, etc., etc. In fact, I don't know why I started doing that, because I've now got to read through 6,000 headlines every week. But, this is apparently what I've done to myself. So yeah, PCC newsletter. Do a search for that. You'll find it. Subscribe. You'll get
But
updates.
you also have you're the voice of something new. Am I right?
I am indeed. The
There we
Salty Professor. Look for the Salty Professor, new podcast, which is my voice reading out Tumblr posts from an anonymous person within higher education in America, kind of pulling back the veil of the wild and wacky things that go on within the Ivory Tower. And yes, that is all in lead up to his book coming out as well, which, fingers crossed, will also have my voice.
Audiobook.
Yes.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
So yeah, look for the Salty Professor.
Yes, well,
links
yeah.
on superdummy.co.uk. And yes, apparently the website was broken for quite a while. I didn't notice because that's how long it's been since I've been on there. But it's now fixed.
Right, well, I'll pull all the links from it and put them in the show notes. Angry Andy, we have been collaborating quite a lot this year on sharing the silver screen. We've got more coming up. I'm not sure when our Of Unknown Origin one is going to come out. Maybe we'll drop that in August or midway through July. Whenever it comes out, we'll sort it. But
Yeah.
you're going on holiday for a little bit. Much deserved break for yourself.
Yes.
But what have you? This is coming out kind of mid-July. So have you got anything that's coming out specifically around then, or any reviews, or anything you want to talk about?
I don't know. It's the same as always. I think it's just whatever gets released that takes my fancy. I guess. I think I've already missed the boat on Bad Boys 4. I think, but I'm not really too bothered about that.
I liked it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I didn't really like the third one, so it is what it is.
Right, yeah, you probably won't like this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a case of whatever upcoming movies sort of grab me, really. I think so. It'll be a case of doing that. I am obviously watching The Acolyte at the moment.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think we're scheduled to podcast on the finale. I think for Mike Burton. That means I have to watch the whole fucking thing this time.
Yeah, and I'd just be like, God, yeah, God help us. But yeah, I think it's obviously I watched Furiosa very recently. Again, another film. I alluded to it before about good films just falling away at the box office, and Furiosa's one of them. And then I had the complete opposite with Atlas, starring Angelina, starring what's her face,
Jennifer Lopez.
Good God, that was horrendous as well. So just send me bad movies, because I think that's what I'm fucking reviewing at the minute. Right. People seem to love it.
I've got loads, Andy. I've got a great selection for you, because I'm the bad movie fucker.
Oh yeah, I think whatever's coming, I've kind of fallen by the wayside on the upcoming movies, to be fair, at the minute. But obviously, we've got Deadpool and Wolverine coming very soon. So there will be a review for that, guaranteed. Yeah. And yes, all fingers crossed for that one, because I think we need it. We need it. So let's hope it is what it is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's me at the moment.
Yeah. Well, you're the Reginald of Rage, and I'm the Sultan of Shit, apparently. I don't fucking know anymore.
God. Oh my God, that's going to be the evolutionary names in a few years' time.
And that's going to now I've said it. Some fuckers are going to this is going to stick now. It's like, oh, it's Dan, the Sultan of Shit.
That's what I'm rebranding to, the Reginald of Rage.
No, not Spider Dan and the Secret Ball. It's just the Spider Dan, the Sultan of Shit.
Oh, that's perfect.
Anyway, we're coming to an end. You can find me at spiderdanandthesecretballs.com. All the links are in the show notes for all the things. I want to thank my patrons on Patreon, Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musing, Simon Cotton, Paul Meller, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, who is here, Tonya Todd, Math, Scott Hodgson, Ria Carrigan, and Sarah Coyne for their continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. If you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. Thank you, guys. I hope you're enjoying. We're halfway through Alien Month, but we've got some cool stuff coming up, some cosmic odysseys, and some body-snatching goodness. So keep your eyes peeled for next week's show, and we'll see you again. How do we say goodbye again? We kiss each other and say we love each other. But we're... Okay, but nobody's seeing it. It's awkward. Don't worry, guys. Nobody's going to see this. It's all audio, so we can do what we want now. So we'll lean in and give each other a lovely kiss, and then we can see.
Baby now.
I have a baby now, and I'm choking on some styrofoam snowflakes, which did happen when they were filming the ending.
Yes.
There's your little trivia tidbit to go out on. But thank you again, guys, and we'll see you in another universe. Bye.
Bye.